My GF confessed. My ex-boyfriend wrote again. I might restart a relationship with him. I replied, follow your heart. Then I called her best friend who'd been adoring me for years. My girlfriend's expression when she caught us at her favorite cafe was absolutely priceless. 4 years of what I thought was building toward forever had just crumbled in a single text message. I was sitting in our Center City apartment, reviewing quarterly reports for my project management firm, when Sophia walked in with that look on her face, the one that meant something was about to change everything. I'd been planning our 5-year anniversary trip to Napa Valley for months, and hidden in my sock drawer was a princess-cut engagement ring I'd saved 8 months to buy. The timing felt perfect until Kevin happened. We need to talk about something, she said, settling onto our couch with her phone clutched in her hands. Kevin reached out to me yesterday. He's back in the States. Kevin, her ex from college who'd broken up with her 3 years into their relationship to find himself backpacking through Europe. The same Kevin who'd left her crying on my shoulder during our first few months of dating, when she was still healing from his abandonment. I set down my laptop, studying her expression. She wasn't upset about hearing from him. She was excited, nervous, conflicted in ways that made my stomach drop. What did he say? I asked, keeping my voice neutral even though every instinct was screaming. She scrolled through her phone, and I caught glimpses of Instagram stories filled with European architecture and exotic locations. He apologized for how things ended. Said he's been following my life through social media and realizes what he lost. He wants to meet up and talk about maybe giving us another chance. The casual way she said, us, referring to her and Kevin, not her and me, hit like a physical blow. I'd been planning to propose to this woman in 3 weeks, and she was sitting here discussing reconciling with someone who treated her like a disposable convenience. He's actually done really well for himself, she continued, unable to hide the admiration in her voice. He's got this travel blog now with over 2 million followers. Sponsorship deals with luxury hotels and airlines. He's been documenting his whole European adventure, and honestly, his life looks incredible. I watched her face as she spoke about his success, seeing something I'd never noticed before, a hunger for the glamorous lifestyle he represented. Here I was, offering stability and genuine love, while Kevin offered adventure and status she could showcase on social media. So what are you thinking? I asked, though her body language had already answered. She fidgeted with her phone, not quite meeting my eyes. I don't know. I mean, we have something real, but Kevin and I had this intense connection. And now that he's grown up and figured himself out. She trailed off, but I could fill in the blanks. Kevin's Instagram success had made him attractive again, transformed him from the selfish boy who'd abandoned her into some kind of romantic hero who'd conquered the world. I've actually been following his account for a few months, she admitted quietly. Just keeping up with what he's been doing. Some of his posts are from these amazing places I've always dreamed of visiting. A few months. She'd been secretly following her ex's lifestyle posts for months while I was planning our future. While I was researching the perfect vineyard for our proposal, she was fantasizing about Kevin's fabricated paradise. The engagement ring in my drawer suddenly felt like evidence of my own naivety. I looked at her for a long moment, processing everything she'd just revealed, then said the words that would change everything. Follow your heart, Sophia. If you think Kevin might be your person, you should explore that. The relief on her face was immediate and telling. She'd expected me to fight, to beg, to give her the dramatic reaction that would justify whatever decision she'd already made. Instead, I stood up calmly and walked to our bedroom, pulling out my phone as she sat there looking almost disappointed by my composed response. I scrolled to Rachel's contact, Sophia's college roommate and closest friend, a physical therapist who'd been part of our social circle for 3 years. Rachel had always been different from Sophia's other friends, genuine where they were performative, thoughtful where they were shallow. I'd noticed the way she looked at me sometimes, the extra attention she paid when I spoke, the slight flush when our hands accidentally touched passing drinks at parties. Hey Rachel, are you free to grab coffee tomorrow? I could use a friend to talk to about something. Her response came quickly, of course. Is everything okay with you and Sophia? Instead of explaining over text, I suggested we meet at Moonbeam Cafe, the trendy brunch spot in Rittenhouse Square where Sophia posted her weekly Instagram stories with captions like, "Sunday vibes with my favorite latte." The irony wasn't lost on me, using Sophia's sacred social media backdrop for my own purposes. But when I called Rachel that evening to confirm, she hesitated. "David, I don't know if this is a good idea. If Sophia finds out we met up while you two are having problems, she'll think I'm being disloyal. I can't get in the middle of whatever's happening between you two." "I understand," I said. "I just thought you might have some insight into her mindset lately. Has she mentioned anything about Kevin to you?" The pause on the other end stretched long enough that I knew Rachel was debating how much to reveal. "David, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but Sophia has been meeting Kevin for coffee multiple times over the past 3 weeks. She said it was just closure, but—" Her voice trailed off, and I could hear the conflict in her tone. "She's been lying to both of us, hasn't she?" "I think so. She told me she was working late those nights, but I saw her Instagram location tags at that upscale place downtown where she never goes alone. When I asked about it, she said it was a work meeting, but I know her company doesn't do business there." Rachel's voice grew firmer. "You know what? Let's meet tomorrow. You deserve to know what's really been going on, and frankly, I'm tired of watching my best friend manipulate people." The next morning, Rachel and I met at Moonbeam Cafe, and what started as a supportive conversation turned into something that felt surprisingly natural and comfortable. She was easy to talk to in ways Sophia never was. She actually listened instead of waiting for her turn to speak, asked thoughtful questions about my work, laughed genuinely at my terrible jokes instead of the polite chuckles I'd grown used to. When she suggested we take a photo together, I didn't think twice about posting it to Instagram with a simple caption, "Good coffee, better company." The response was immediate, likes and comments from mutual friends who were clearly curious about this unexpected pairing, and within 2 hours, my phone was exploding with angry texts from Sophia. "What the hell is this picture with Rachel? Are you seriously running to my friends the second we have a disagreement? This is so pathetic and manipulative." I was still reading her messages when I heard her key in the apartment door, followed by heavy footsteps that definitely weren't just hers. She burst into our living room with Kevin trailing behind her, both of them looking like they'd been caught in some kind of conspiracy. Kevin was exactly what I'd expected from his Instagram posts: carefully styled hair, expensive casual clothes, that practiced confidence of someone who'd spent years perfecting his image for social media. "So this is your brilliant move?" Sophia demanded, waving her phone at me. "Running to Rachel like some scorned teenager? Did you tell her everything about our private conversation?" "I told her you've been lying to both of us," I replied calmly, noting how Kevin shifted uncomfortably beside her. "About the coffee dates, about working late, about whatever else you've been hiding." That's when I pulled out my phone and showed them both the screenshots I'd been reviewing all morning, our shared credit card statements that I'd been too trusting to monitor closely until now. $1,100 at Le Bernardin last weekend. $800 at that rooftop bar downtown 3 weeks ago. A $1,500 weekend trip to New York that I apparently wasn't invited to. Sophia's face went pale as I continued reading. Hotel charges, expensive restaurants, even a couple's massage at some spa. All charged to our joint account while you were supposedly working late or having girls' nights with Rachel. Kevin actually took a step back, clearly realizing he'd walked into something messier than he'd bargained for. "Sophia, you told me you had your own money for those dates. You said you'd been saving up." "I can spend our money however I want," she snapped, but her voice lacked conviction. "It's my account too." "Actually, it's not," I said, pulling out the lease agreement from our kitchen drawer. "This apartment is in my name only. The shared account was for shared expenses, rent, groceries, utilities. Not for funding your secret relationship with your ex-boyfriend." The room went dead silent as the implications sank in. Kevin looked like he wanted to disappear, probably realizing that the woman he'd been wooing with expensive dates couldn't actually afford the lifestyle she'd been presenting. Sophia's face cycled through panic, anger, and finally, defiant resignation. "Fine," she said, crossing her arms. "I've been apartment hunting anyway. Kevin has this amazing loft in Fishtown with exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows. We've been planning to move in together once we made things official. Kevin's head snapped toward her, his carefully maintained composure finally cracking. Wait, what? Sophia, we never discussed me moving in. I never said anything about living together. The look of betrayal on her face as she realized Kevin hadn't been planning the same future she was would have been satisfying if it weren't so pathetic to watch. Within hours of that confrontation, Sophia launched a social media campaign that would have impressed any PR firm with its calculated viciousness. Her Instagram stories were filled with cryptic posts about escaping toxic relationships and finally finding someone who doesn't try to control every aspect of your life. She posted a photo of her and Kevin at some upscale restaurant with the caption, "When you realize what real love looks like after years of settling for someone who monitors your spending and isolates you from happiness. Sometimes the universe sends your soulmate back when you're ready to receive real love." The comments section became a battlefield as mutual friends tried to piece together what was happening, but Sophia was ready with responses painting me as financially abusive and manipulative. She claimed I'd been controlling her access to money, monitoring her movements, and trying to sabotage her career opportunities. It was a masterclass in rewriting history, and I watched helplessly as people who'd known us as a couple began questioning everything they thought they knew about our relationship. But Kevin's carefully curated image started cracking when an unexpected voice appeared in the comments section. "Kevin, sweetie, is this the same finding myself story you told me when you left Barcelona last month? And Emma before that in Prague? And Sarah in Amsterdam? Girl, run while you can. This man has left a trail of broken hearts across 3 continents using the exact same script." The woman's profile showed she was Isabel from Paris, a photographer whose own Instagram was filled with the kind of authentic travel content that made Kevin's posts look amateur by comparison. Her comment got dozens of likes within minutes, and suddenly other women were emerging from Kevin's past, each sharing eerily similar stories of whirlwind romances that ended with him disappearing to find himself in a new country. Meanwhile, Sophia escalated her campaign by calling my office, demanding to speak to my boss about my unstable behavior and potential substance abuse issues. She claimed I'd been erratic at home, drinking heavily, and that she was concerned about my ability to handle client responsibilities. Fortunately, I'd worked with my team for 3 years, and my reputation spoke for itself, but it was jarring to realize how far she was willing to go. My colleague Marcus actually laughed when HR mentioned they'd received a concerning call about me. David? The guy who drinks 1 beer at company parties and leaves by 9? The same David who's never missed a deadline and just landed our biggest client this quarter? Either someone's got the wrong person or someone's got serious issues. Rachel became my unofficial documentation assistant, helping me screenshot every threatening message Sophia sent. "I will destroy your reputation," read one text at 2 a.m. "Everyone will know what kind of person you really are. You'll never find another woman stupid enough to put up with your controlling behavior." Another message came through my work email somehow. "Enjoy your pathetic little life with my leftovers." Rachel was always desperate for my scraps, so I guess you two deserve each other. Too bad she doesn't know about your financial problems and drinking. The situation reached its breaking point when I came home from work to find Sophia sitting at my laptop, frantically typing and clicking through my browser history. She'd somehow remembered the passwords I'd used around her, and when I discovered her trying to access my social media accounts, her expression was pure guilt mixed with defiance. "I was just checking to see what lies you've been spreading about me," she claimed, but the browser showed she'd been attempting to delete our photos together and change my relationship status across multiple platforms. "Sophia, you need to leave. Now. This is still my home too until I find somewhere else to live," she replied, but her hands were shaking as she spoke. "Actually, it's not," I said, pulling out my phone to call the police non-emergency line. "You never signed the lease, remember? And now you're trespassing and attempting to access my private accounts without permission." The look of panic on her face as she realized the legal implications was almost worth the months of manipulation I'd endured. When the police arrived and explained that what she'd done constituted unauthorized computer access and harassment, her composure finally cracked completely. "This is insane," she screamed as they informed her about the restraining order process. "I'm not some crazy stalker. We were together for 4 years. This is just a bad breakup, and he's being vindictive because I chose someone better. The court-mandated move-out day arrived like a circus I never wanted to attend, complete with Sophia showing up in a rented moving truck with Kevin and 2 professional movers she'd hired to extract her belongings from my apartment. I'd spent the previous evening carefully documenting everything that belonged to me versus what was legitimately hers, taking photos of serial numbers and receipts for anything expensive. Rachel had offered to be there as a witness, filming everything on her phone to protect both of us from false accusations. I paid for half of that television, Sophia announced, pointing at the 65-inch smart TV I'd bought 6 months before we started dating. And that coffee maker and the living room furniture. I pulled out my phone, showing her photos of my credit card statements and Best Buy receipts. This TV is from March 2019. We started dating in August 2019. The coffee maker was a Christmas gift from my parents in 2018. The furniture came from my previous apartment. Kevin stood awkwardly beside her, checking his phone constantly and avoiding eye contact with anyone. He looked nothing like his confident Instagram persona, more like someone desperately trying to figure out how to escape an increasingly uncomfortable situation. "Sir, we need payment for the truck and moving services," one of the movers announced, handing Kevin a clipboard with a total $847 for the rental and labor. Kevin pulled out his wallet, producing what looked like an expensive credit card, and handed it over with his practiced social media smile. "No problem, guys. Thanks for helping us out today." 2 minutes later, the mover returned looking apologetic. "I'm sorry, sir, but this card was declined. Do you have another payment method?" The look on Kevin's face was priceless, pure panic mixed with the realization that his financial house of cards was collapsing in front of an audience. He fumbled through his wallet, pulling out 2 more cards that met the same fate, each decline causing his confidence to visibly deflate. "This is ridiculous," he muttered, his perfectly curated Instagram voice cracking. "There must be some mistake with the card readers." Sophia watched this display with growing horror, and I could see the exact moment she realized her knight in shining armor was actually drowning in debt. "I'll pay for it," she said quietly, pulling out her own credit card, the one that was still connected to our joint account that I hadn't closed yet. But when the charge went through, her face went white as she realized she'd just spent nearly $900 of what was technically my money to move out of my apartment with another man. Rachel caught everything on video: Kevin's increasingly desperate attempts to find a working payment method, Sophia's dawning realization that her upgrade was actually a massive downgrade, and the movers looking increasingly uncomfortable with the whole situation. The chaos reached its peak when I discovered my grandfather's vintage Rolex was missing from my jewelry box. It was the one truly irreplaceable item I owned, a family heirloom passed down through 3 generations that was worth more than most people's cars. "Where's my watch?" I asked, my voice cutting through the general commotion. Sophia froze mid-instruction to the movers, and Kevin's head snapped up from his phone. "What watch?" "My grandfather's Rolex. The one that was in my bedroom jewelry box this morning and is now gone." I pulled out my phone, showing them a photo I'd taken during my documentation process. "It was here 6 hours ago, and now only you 3 have had access to this apartment." The silence was deafening. Rachel zoomed in her camera as Sophia's face cycled through confusion, realization, and something that looked like guilt mixed with defiance. Kevin took a step back, raising his hands. "I never touched any jewelry, man. I've been in the living room this whole time." "Maybe you misplaced it," Sophia suggested, but her voice lacked conviction. "Maybe you should check your purse," I replied, noting how she instinctively clutched it closer to her body. The police arrived 20 minutes later, and their search revealed the watch in Kevin's jacket pocket, leading to his immediate arrest for theft. Sophia's complete breakdown as she realized she'd thrown away 4 years of stability for a fraud who'd just stolen from her ex-boyfriend was almost too pathetic to watch. "This isn't how this was supposed to go," she sobbed as Kevin was handcuffed. "He was supposed to be successful. He was supposed to take care of me." 2 weeks after Kevin's arrest for theft, I thought the drama was finally over until my phone rang at 3:17 a.m. with a call from an unknown number that I almost ignored. "David, thank God you answered," came Sophia's weak, trembling voice. I'm at Jefferson Hospital. I collapsed at work and they brought me in an ambulance. The doctors need my insurance information, but I'm still listed under your policy as a domestic partner. Can you please come down here? I'm scared and alone. My first instinct was genuine concern. Despite everything, I didn't want her to actually be hurt, but something about her tone felt off, too performative even for someone in medical distress. I told her I'd figure out the insurance situation in the morning and hung up, but the call bothered me enough that I mentioned it to Rachel when she stopped by later that day. That's weird, Rachel said, her physical therapist training kicking in immediately. Jefferson doesn't typically call family members for insurance information in emergency situations. They stabilize first and worry about billing later. And if she was really admitted, they would have contacted her emergency contact, which should be her sister, not you. Rachel's skepticism prompted her to call Jefferson Hospital directly, using her professional credentials to inquire about a patient named Sophia Martinez who would have been admitted the previous night. After 15 minutes on hold and several transfers, she hung up with a grim expression. David, there's no record of anyone by her name being admitted last night. No emergency room visit, no ambulance transport, nothing. The fake emergency was bad enough, but what came next was a masterclass in desperate manipulation that backfired spectacularly. 3 days later, my Instagram and Facebook feeds exploded with notifications as Sophia posted a carefully staged photo of herself holding what appeared to be a pregnancy test with the caption, "Sometimes life gives you exactly what you need when you least expect it. David, we created something beautiful together, and I hope you'll step up and be the father our baby deserves." 8 weeks along and glowing with happiness. The comments section filled immediately with congratulations from people who didn't know we'd broken up, confused questions from mutual friends, and concerned messages from family members asking why they were finding out about my impending fatherhood through social media. My phone started ringing nonstop. My mother, my sister, my boss, even my dentist who somehow followed my personal social media. But Sophia had made one critical error in her timeline calculations. I'd had an emergency appendectomy 6 months ago, followed by 3 weeks of doctor-ordered recovery that made any intimate activity impossible during the exact time frame she was claiming conception occurred. I still had all my medical records, including the detailed discharge instructions that specifically mentioned activity restrictions. My response was swift and public. I posted my hospital discharge papers, surgical notes, and recovery timeline with a simple caption, "Medical records don't lie." According to Sophia's timeline, conception would have occurred during my appendectomy recovery when doctors had specifically prohibited any physical activity. Screenshots of her fake hospital call and other recent harassment documented below. Please stop contacting my family about this fabricated situation. The reaction was immediate and devastating for Sophia's credibility. Kevin, who had apparently been released on bail and was still following both our social media accounts, commented publicly, "This is exactly the kind of manipulation I should have seen coming. Sophia, we're done. Don't contact me again." Our mutual friend group, who had been trying to stay neutral throughout the breakup, finally took sides as people began sharing screenshots of Sophia's contradictory stories. Her college roommate Ashley posted, "I have texts from Sophia saying she hadn't been intimate with anyone in months because she was focusing on herself. Now she's claiming to be 8 weeks pregnant? Make it make sense." Even worse for Sophia, her own social media history betrayed her. Rachel had screenshotted posts from just 2 weeks earlier where Sophia was drinking cocktails at various bars and complaining about her period. The pregnancy announcement post disappeared within hours, but not before dozens of people had documented the entire saga with their own screenshots and comments. 6 weeks later, the contrast between our lives couldn't have been more stark, and I was getting regular updates through our mutual friend network about just how dramatically Sophia's world had collapsed. She was working at a retail clothing store in King of Prussia Mall, living in a cramped studio apartment above a convenience store, and taking the bus to work because her car had been repossessed when she couldn't make payments without access to our joint account. Meanwhile, Rachel and I had moved past the circumstances that brought us together and discovered we genuinely enjoyed each other's company in ways I'd never experienced with Sophia. Rachel listened when I talked about work projects, got excited about my ideas for weekend plans, and never once made me feel like I wasn't enough exactly as I was. We'd been taking things slowly, but every day felt natural and comfortable in ways that made me realize how much effort my previous relationship had required. Kevin's situation was even more dramatically satisfying than Sophia's downward spiral. His arrest for stealing my watch had prompted other victims to come forward, and suddenly his entire social media empire was crumbling under legal scrutiny. The travel blogging community was small enough that word spread quickly about his pattern of financial fraud, fake sponsorships, and manipulating women across multiple countries to fund his lifestyle. An investigative blogger had compiled testimonials from 7 different women who'd been scammed by Kevin's successful entrepreneur act, revealing that his luxury travel content was funded by credit card debt, borrowed money, and the women he manipulated in each city. The article went viral in travel blogging circles, and Kevin's Instagram account was eventually deleted after sponsors started demanding refunds for partnerships that turned out to be fabricated. I was at my desk reviewing quarterly client reports when our building's security called to let me know there was a woman in the lobby asking to see me, claiming it was a family emergency. Through the lobby cameras, I could see Sophia pacing nervously, dressed in what looked like her work uniform from the retail store, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail that was nothing like her former Instagram-ready appearance. "Sir, should I send her up?" the security guard asked. "Actually, there's a restraining order on file. Please inform her that she needs to leave the property immediately, or I'll need to contact the police." I watched through the camera feed as security approached her, and even from 15 floors up, I could see her shoulders slump in defeat as she realized her final desperate attempt at reconciliation had failed before it even began. That weekend, Rachel and I drove to Napa Valley for the trip I'd originally planned as a proposal getaway with Sophia. Using the money from returning the engagement ring, we booked a beautiful vineyard resort and spent 3 days actually enjoying each other's company without drama or manipulation or constant worry about hidden agendas. Rachel took photos of our genuine experiences, laughing over wine tastings, exploring small towns, reading books together on the resort patio, and when she posted them to social media, the contrast with Kevin's fabricated lifestyle content was obvious to anyone who looked. These were real moments between people who actually enjoyed being together, not staged perfection designed to make others envious. "I'm really happy," Rachel told me as we watched the sunset over the vineyards on our last evening. "Not just happy with you, but happy with who I am when I'm with you. You make me feel like the best version of myself." It was exactly what I'd thought I had with Sophia but realized I'd never experienced at all. Real partnership meant bringing out the best in each other, not constantly trying to prove your worth or justify your existence. 6 months later, I heard through the grapevine that Sophia had moved back in with her parents in South Jersey, working 2 part-time jobs to pay off the debts she'd accumulated during her brief fantasy relationship with Kevin. Kevin himself had moved to California, supposedly to start fresh, but legal troubles followed him as more victims came forward with fraud allegations. The last time I thought about either of them was when Rachel and I got engaged, a simple, genuine proposal during a quiet dinner at home, no Instagram staging required. Sometimes I wondered what would have happened if I'd fought for Sophia when she first mentioned Kevin's return, if I'd begged and pleaded and tried to convince her of my worth. But watching Rachel laugh at my terrible jokes while helping me cook dinner, seeing her excitement when I talked about my work projects, feeling completely accepted for exactly who I was, I realized that the greatest gift Sophia ever gave me was walking away and forcing me to discover what real love actually looked like.